Hi kindergarten teachers, my name is Leanne Fisher and I'm going to be going over some of our CSD tools for planning and implementation. Curriculum map and instructional guide. We have typically in the past been calling it a curriculum map and we are transitioning into calling it an instructional guide. A curriculum map consists of scope and sequence, pacing, and standards, where an instructional guide, which is what we've been using mostly, and calling it a curriculum map, is actually more of an instructional guide because it has those additional components of a scope and sequence, pacing, standards, but it also has routines, best practices, systems, and frameworks. These pieces will be available for you. I'm going to go over a few of them with you today. They'll be available for you on our bookshelf at canyonsdistrict.org, for manuals at canyonsdistrict.org, where you'll be able to go to our elementary instructional guides. Our target date to have all these finalized would be by August 1st with those added pieces. So just something to be mindful of is we are going to be calling them instructional guides because they are more than just a curriculum map. Literacy blocks have been updated to reflect our new components of Wonders and 95 Phonics Core program. They are linked here for you with whether you teach the half-day program or if you are teaching the full-day program. Half-day you still have the 70 minutes and full-day you still have the 150 minutes. We have our literacy components with foundations, language, reading, and writing, and then you have your skills-based instruction, core instruction or tier 2 instruction, your range of time, being flexible with that at the beginning of the year we're probably going to need a little bit more time when we're getting to know these routines, and that's okay. We have our standards that we're teaching and then the component of the tool that we'll be using to teach those standards. One thing to see here is that this dotted line is intentional so that we see that our language and reading and writing are not going to be in isolation. They're really going to be doing it together. Students are going to be reading and they're going to be writing. And there's going to be a time of when there's going to be some extended writing, intentional time, but there's also going to be a lot of where students are going to be writing about the text while we're in that block of that 55 to 60 minutes. So we'll see here that that dotted line is intentional and new to represent that writing is not necessarily an isolated block, but an opportunity for students to be writing about the text that they have just been reading. In your learning task notebook, I'm going to have you just reflect real quick, looking at your literacy block, which components of foundations are being taught with 95 materials. So thinking about that framework, I'm going to just slide back here. If we have our components here, what are those components that are going to be taught using our 95 materials? Take a few minutes and you can pause me. I'm going to move on to our next slide, but be sure to fill out that learning task notebook. Our year at a glance for kindergarten. Again, this is also linked for you right here. It's underlined so that you can have access to this year at a glance. Each unit is going to be color-coded for you, and you'll see how that is also represented in your scope and sequence to help you. You have your suggested pacing and the time frame for each of those units. This is going to look a little different because now you have that range of time. You have the big idea, which is a question that's posed. You have your phonemic awareness and phonics target of what you're going to be doing with your 95 Phonics Core program. You have your language comprehension. You have your, your extended writing focus. This is in the even units. You can see here that half day, this is optional because you have the 70 minutes. We recognize that time is tight. Full day, you have 150 minutes, so we recognize that you will have the time to be able to do the extended writing focus and that topic. So you can see here where it's located and how you'll be able to find it, that being aware in Unit 2, Week 2, that we're going to focus on that expository piece of text and that students are going to do an extended piece of writing because they've been doing so much of it and talking about it, reading about it, and now they're going to have some opportunity to write about it. We also have our key language use, which is coming from our WIDA standards, and that key language use is going to be looking at what are the students going to be asked to do, what language are they being asked to produce. So we're looking here how this is going to be inform and explain, and you can see here that it goes to narrate. You have 10 units, and I'll explain what that looks like for Wonders, but this is just one page to show you that year at a glance, that bigger picture of what is Wonders going to be providing for us, what is 95 Core going to be providing for us, and what does it look like at that big picture. So your unit pacing for kindergarten, for your unit in Wonders, you have 3 weeks per unit. They're wraparound weeks. So what that means is that if we go to school on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and have fall break on Thursday, Friday, that means that on Monday, we would finish teaching lessons 4 and 5. We wouldn't just stop and condense that lesson. We would wrap around. So we would have lessons 1, 2, and 3, and then we would continue that next week on Monday, Tuesday with lessons 4 and 5 to make it that 5-day lesson. It's no more of this trying to compact it into a 5-day. It's going to be a wraparound because of those skills and that rigor that happens with that day 4 and 5. We don't want to compact it. We want students to be able to get to that application phase, and that's where those days are going to happen, so we don't want to try to condense. You'll have those wraparound weeks, and then you have 7 days to teach those 5 lessons. So there's about a 2-day flex for each week so that you are able to teach your lesson, but then you can extend, or you can go back and reteach something if you're giving a check-in or you're looking at feedback from your students that they're not understanding something. There's a flexible pacing to allow you to adjust to students' needs for if we need to be more rigorous or if we need to look at some ways to scaffold the instruction. With Wonders here, you have a text set. So for your text set 1, you would have 5 days with 2 flexible days to give you about 7 days of instruction. You have 3 text sets per unit for Wonders, and then in your unit, you have 2 units per teacher's edition. And I know this might sound a little tricky right now, but once you have your teacher's edition in front of you, it is a little bit clearer as well. I know I'm not speaking with the book in my hand. Same thing for 95 Phonics Core program, which is used to teach our foundational skills. You have 7 days to teach those 5 lessons, again with the wraparound weeks, that it's not a Monday through Friday. It might be on some weeks, but you might have to take some of those lessons and carry them over to the next week. So being cognizant of that rigor and why we do that we don't just try to condense, that we go to the next week. Here is our 5-day plan. It is linked for half day and for full day. This is to give you a view of what is the pattern with your Phonics Core program. What's the pattern of my lessons for lessons 1 through 5? And this is what it provides for you. You see here that you have your foundational skills and your range of time. And that range is because there's different things that students are going to be learning on different days that might take a little bit more time too, right? You can see here by the bullets that there's some things that are a little bit heavier and some things where it's a little lighter. And that again goes back to that rigor of as the week goes on, there's more of that application piece. So you have your days 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for your foundational skills, the skills that are going to be taught during those 5 days. And then you go into your Wonders, which is where we teach our language, reading, and writing standards, your range of time, your lessons that you have, and what components that you'll be teaching on a lesson 1. What lesson 2, what components would I be teaching, and so on. This is also where we have our writing pieces and where you'll be able to see where students are going to have an isolated block, or not maybe an isolated block, but an opportunity to do more of an extended writing on that specific week that was identified on that scope and sequence. So in your learning test notebook, using the 5-day plan and the 4 text set implementation for the year, I'm going to have you identify which days the texts appear in the 5-day cycle. So use this word bank and the sentence frame. So just to clarify, our text sets that we're really focusing on this year are that interactive read aloud, your shared read, your anchor text, and your paired read. So the blank text is used during blank days. So that's where I would look and see my interactive read aloud is used during what day, what lesson 1 through 5, and you would just identify that. And that's to get you in that 5-day plan to see what text set is working and where it is and what's that pattern. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to stop right here and